Hey everybody, welcome to the Patty G Show. I'm your host, Patty G. We are here for another episode of the season. We've got TJ Woodard in of Prescriptions To Geaux. We're going to talk medical, pharmacy, golfing, children. Who knows what we're going to get into? We're going to get into a bunch of different stuff, bunch of different topics, and really just dive into the entrepreneurial world that is within TJ's life. But before we get to that, I want to give a big, wonderful shout out and thank you to the amazing folks that bring you the show each and every week. Building 5, Falaya Real Estate, Lake Men's Health Center, Horizon Financial Group, Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge, and you know the fit of the day is brought to you by McLavy Limited. Without further ado, TJ, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you here and learn and chit-chat and learn about all things prescriptions and medical and whatnot, man. So
I'll make it as interesting as I can.
Look, that's good. I'll be here for it. So for those that aren't aware, whatever the small fraction of the population that is, who are you and what the heck do you do?
Wow, tough one right out of the gate. So I'm TJ Woodard. I grew up in North Louisiana in Bossier City. Came to school here. I was kind of a journeyman. I was all over the state going to school, and then ended up in Monroe in pharmacy school where I met my wife, Amy. I'm from Bossier. She's from Ville Platte. And, we graduated and were getting married and didn't really know what to do or where to do it. So we kind of decided I still had friends in Baton Rouge and originally had aspirations of going back to law school after pharmacy school, and that's a whole other story. But we decided to come to Baton Rouge for a little while until we sorted things out and figured out what we wanted to do. And that was, 16 years ago now. So it seems like we've planted our roots here.
Have you figured out what you wanted to do yet?
Not really. No, I'm closer than I was when we first started. Amy and I graduated pharmacy school, and we didn't really know what we wanted to do. You go work at a big chain and you put money in a 401k and you work hard and you pick up shifts, and then hopefully one day before you die, you can retire and enjoy it. And it didn't take either one of us, but especially me, very long to realize that pharmacy and medicine, especially the big chain kind of the retail world, was not what I thought it was, or certainly not what I wanted to do. So that I wouldn't say that I ever thought I had an entrepreneurial spirit. Looking back now, it's kind of in there. And funny enough, really a lot of it with every company I worked for, one of the things that agitated me the most was they made us wear a tie and like this lab coat and this, I don't know, I felt like I was a clown playing dress up or something. And it's funny that a tie, having to wear a tie to work, being forced by somebody who had no idea what patient care or pharmacy was about, that probably is the thing that pushed me over the edge. And it sounds so petty and ridiculous, but I'm just not the kind of person. If the answer to like, why are we doing this is because, well, that's the way we've always done it.
Is that what they told you?
I mean, this was a process. This was this happened over a period of time, and I just wouldn't wear a tie, and they would come in. And now, mind you, the stores, this was later on, and I was at a store, and the store that I worked at was established. We were doing well. The sales were up. People were generally happy. We took good care of people. And it's always like they seemed to be worried about something that was completely irrelevant or nobody cared about. And that was kind of always my argument was, do you think Miss Jones cares if I'm wearing a tie when she comes in and she's out of her blood pressure medicine, the doctor's out of town, she only has a ride when her nephew comes in town to take her. I'm going to take care of her. That's what she cares about. So, I'm kind of giving away the secret to success here, but the corporate world doesn't seem to listen to me much.
Doesn't much matter.
No, that's not what people care about. So, so we ended up here and have a lot of friends here. Never thought I would own or operate a business here. I love LSU, obviously. I've always loved Baton Rouge. I fell in love with it. And, I tell people all the time, like, why am I so passionate about not just Baton Rouge, but Louisiana, but especially Baton Rouge. I chose to live here. A lot of people grew up here and never left for whatever reason, but Amy and I chose to live here, and we choose to raise our kids here. So that you kind of have a vested interest when you've made that decision. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I care so much.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, right, you've got a family here, you have an established business here, you have skin in the game. You're concerned about what's happening on the corner around the street from you. You're concerned about what's happening in the Capitol. You're concerned about the roads you drive. Like at least you should be, because if you live somewhere, you want to make sure that where you're living is going to be the best for both you, your family, and your next generation that's going to be to come.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I do care. I'm in the community, and it's the not in my backyard mentality. And I think all of us want this to be a nice place to raise a family, something we're proud of. And when somebody comes in to visit, we can show them how great the city is. So I think you're right. And really it's maybe even more simple than that for me. It's kind of how I was raised and how Amy, my wife, was raised, that you just kind of want to leave the world a better place than you found it. It really sounds cliche and all those things, but I'm a simple person. Parenting is a very difficult. My father-in-law always says it's not complicated, but it's not easy, and it's exactly right. But I'm a simple person. Like, I need to focus on simple things. So, what can I do? Little things, big things, whatever, to make this place better than I found it.
Yeah.
So it's cliche and simple, but
it's your truth though. Like it's who you are. It's not this facade that you're putting out saying, "Oh, I want to leave the world a better place," and then doing something else behind the door.
Yeah.
It's like it's authentic to you because it's how you live your life. It's how your business operates. You want to make the person that comes in better than when they want them to leave better than they came in.
Yeah, that's right. And it spills over, I guess, into our business. There wasn't this grand planning session where we sat down and, let's come up with a motto or how we're going to do things or how we're going to treat people or who we're going to hire or, all these checklists. And I don't do any of that. But I think inherently it just happens naturally. So that's who do we hire? Why do we hire them? Well, I can't really define that. We've been lucky to hire really good people that do the right thing even when no one's looking. So like a golf reference, my son's really into golf, and I tell him that. Like, I'll show him a professional calling a 2-stroke penalty on himself when the ball moved. Nobody in the world would have known, but he knew that was the right thing at that time. So this theory, like, do the right thing, especially when no one's looking. I don't know. I think if everybody did that, and to go back to another completely cliche motto, that kind of how we try to run our business is like the golden rule. It's really not complicated, but it matters. Just treat people well. So all the marketing and the studies and how do you grow a business and I don't really know. You just
you just know how to treat people well.
I think if you do it, then the rest takes care of itself.
And I think when you look at things from a marketing perspective, the best type of marketing out there is always going to be word of mouth.
Right.
And so how do you get people to be vocal about your business? How do you get people to verbalize their experience? And I think it comes down to how you treat that person. When they walked in the door, did you treat them well? Did you respect them? Did you do what you could to fulfill the order, to work around a problem or an issue that came up, instead of saying, well, that's not within my wheelhouse, that's not my job, not my problem, and shifted them down to the line? Like, no, you took care of them every step of the way. You were a part of them. Their experience was successful because of what you did while they were there. They're going to remember that way more than if you had a tie on or not.
No, I think that's exactly right. And it's still a little awkward and uncomfortable for us and we're lucky. I mean, we have very loyal patients, friends, family, and I don't advertise. I don't market well. And I know that's one of my shortcomings, but like you said, it kind of takes care of itself through word of mouth. And it really means a lot to us it makes me uncomfortable when someone, especially somebody that I don't really know, because maybe I wasn't there at one of our pharmacies and somebody just did the right thing and took care of them. They do that all day, every day. And, oh, by the way, you weren't there, but this happened, or I was out of a refill, or we were leaving town, or it was a Sunday and I had surgery Monday morning and forgot to pick up my medicine and somebody met me there. I mean, those are the kind of things that you would never see in the corporate world because they're punching a clock, they're doing a job, they're going home. Whereas it's kind of I hate to say a mission, like this is, I'm not in the Philippines taking care of people on my own dime, but it's, we all have our own mission, our own way. And part of, I guess, my talent, my skill set is pharmacy is an unnecessarily complicated world, but it's not usually as complicated as somebody made it. So there's oftentimes a pretty simple solution to a complicated problem. And that's worked out well for us with word of mouth, and our patients are our best advocates. And I would like to think it's because they feel like they're well taken care of. And that's always been my goal. But you're right. You can't beat word of mouth. And if your good friend that you trust tells you, hey, go buy a car at this place, ask for this guy, he'll take care of you, you're going to give that more credit than you will, seeing something play, on a 7:00 primetime TV show or something.
Yeah. It's, you may watch a lot of commercials and you may be drawn to whatever the commercial is saying, but what solidifies even more is if I say, hey, TJ, look, for dinner, man, you got to go to Building 5 because it's phenomenal. And it's not like, it's coming from a place of, hey, as a friend, as a companion, I'm telling you that you've got to go do this because my experience was so great with whatever it is, instead of saying, hey, listener, have you been to XYZ?
Yeah. And you have to repeat it X amount of times before it sets in. And that's a great point. And, side plug, we're big fans of Building 5. We live very near there, and my wife thoroughly enjoys it. But just like, Men's Health, these folks, some of these folks I didn't even know. We know doctors, they know us, almost like in a casual business sense. We see each other's name. We cross each other on the fax machine. We're one of the few people in the world that still use a fax machine. I was about
to say, don't tell me I'll still use a fax machine.
We do. It's
why?
I don't know.
So you're all still faxing over prescriptions?
Yeah, not as nearly as many as before. They're trying to shift everything to e-scripts, but yeah, there's still a lot that do. That's another kind of weird wormhole we can go down. One of my fascinations is how the fax machines work, but I don't know that I want to know. But it's interesting technology.
It's like you think it's outdated, but when you actually break it down to what is happening, right? Like you're dialing a number.
It's just ones and zeros,
you're scanning a document, and it's sending out ones and zeros to then be replicated across the world, but print out a document that's identical to what you had.
It's funny, like in our world, forgery and is always like the peak of everyone's interest.
I mean, those doctors' signatures, though. Come on.
Yeah, we can read the writing, but again, they're shifting everything to electronic prescriptions now, which is great. But they've been hacked and forged and those sorts of things. The fax is still probably the most difficult thing to forge, which is kind of funny. But no, but kind of back to your theory. And when we opened our second store, it was really, I had a much better idea of what we needed to do and where we needed to do it. But a lot of it was still dumb luck. And turns out we operate very close to where an awful lot of physicians live and work. And I would say probably per capita, we have more physicians and nurse practitioners and PAs, all kind of prescribers as patients than any other pharmacy, which I wear that kind of as a badge of honor. I mean, these are the folks that know these things, and the fact that they'll choose us, but not just choose us, they become our biggest advocates, which is great. I mean, you can't pay for that sort of advertisement. Right. You go into the doctor's office and he or she tells you, I don't know, send it to XYZ pharmacy, but it's terrible. I'm going to have to wait for 2 days and they're going to be out of it and blah, blah, blah. Well, why are you going there? Why don't you go to Prescriptions To Go? It's right down the road. They'll take care of you. That you can't pay for that. And it's been really, I would like to say that I had this grand scheme and planned all of that out, but I didn't. It was dumb luck, and we took care of people. And over time, it's kind of taken care of itself.
Well, and then that goes into like what you're saying about being in the community, being involved. When you look at like Men's Health Center, right, with Dr. Chastain and Dr. Boudreaux, when they do their community events and they do their wine dinners, which are phenomenal, they do their bourbon tasting dinners, which are fun, and they bring people in like you, partners in the community, like you just see that they're trying to build something bigger than just meeting the corporate demands, right? It's, okay, no, we're really caring about servicing clients. We're really caring about providing service. And with Prescriptions To Go, you'd much rather say, oh, hey, Miss Susie, nice to see you. Oh, Timmy's in town. That's why you're here picking up your prescription, instead of name, date of birth.
Well, that makes for a really long day, and I've done that. When you're just there performing a task and doing a job, it can get very, very, very mundane, which is the thing I love the most, especially when we were downtown and pretty slow, and I was there, all day, every day. I mean, it was kind of like the barbershop. I mean, we had people that would come in throughout the day and just like drink coffee, not even pick up a prescription, but we would just, that's the part I love. The part I hate, what I do a lot of now that hopefully the end is in sight, fighting with insurance companies and things on the back end. That's the part that's no fun, but it's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, it's, and this whole thing of kind of, to go down this tangent, that the customer is always right. Well, they're not at Prescriptions To Go. The customer's not always right when they're wrong and dead wrong and don't know how to talk to people or treat people, or, it's happened. Cuss one of the ladies out. That customer is not right. And more so than that, I've asked more than a couple of people to go find another pharmacy to use, because it's, it's that theory that, I don't know what it is, 5% of your customers take up 95% of your time and they're 99% of your headache. There's some truth to that. And it's usually, and some of that's personality driven, and some of it is just they're used to, well, I can do that and get a free meal, or I can do that and they'll give me a gift card because I've complained. And it's funny, like I guess maybe we have a reputation for that because we don't see a lot of that anymore, but you weed out the bad apples and the bad actors. They're not just bad to the staff or whoever it is. That's really truly doing the best they can to help them. It's other customers and people around them. So that was something kind of unique that I kind of value quality over quantity. I would rather fill 250 prescriptions than 500 and just be, head down, can't visit with anyone, always behind, always late. That it makes for a very miserable day, and it starts to show itself in everyone.
Yeah, and that's, I don't think that's just specific to your industry. Mm-hmm. I think that is, I see that a lot in the CPA world, mm-hmm. where it's, at least personally, I focus a lot more on quality over quantity.
Yeah.
I would much rather have somebody who understands and appreciates what we do and is looking for that level of service than for just somebody that's going to walk into, say, an H&R Block and say, here's my documents, file the return. I want to build a relationship with you. Right. I want to help you. I want to coach you. I want to be able to work with you from where we pick you up, wherever you're at in your stage in your career, and we help you get to the next level with whatever we're able to do with you. It's so much better and personally more satisfying and appealing to get to work through that with that person, get to know them and their family, than just say, okay, what's your name, date of birth, and let me process you through the system.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think that healthcare has kind of slowly devolved into, and I don't think it was a concerted effort. I think it's really kind of time driven, and a lot of times we are all very busy and there's paperwork requirements and this and that. But to me, it's so much more satisfying and rewarding, like in your world, when you see a smile on somebody's face, like, well, thank you. I never thought of that. And that's one of the things I've tried to focus on as I get older. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a plumber. Although I've tried all those things, I end up screwing it up worse than it was before and have to pay double to fix it. And like, I like to think I have a network of, whether it's a plumber or a physician or an electrician, whatever it is, somebody that I know and I trust. They may be a little more expensive. I'm happy to pay it because you get better quality.
Yeah, and you get what you pay for in everything in life.
You do. And one of the things I hate, like a sterile transaction. You go, whether it's a big grocery store chain or the TSA, and we all have bad days and we're all frustrated, but it's not that person's fault. It's not the customer's fault. They may be having a much worse day than you are.
Yeah.
So just kind of the little things but the flip side of that is not like we have like this training program. It's really just about knowing who to surround yourself with. I can tend to be a little negative at times. Amy would die laughing if she was sitting next to me, but so I kind of like to surround myself with positive people. That too much negativity is not really good for anybody. So yeah, it's a kind of like going back to parenting, running a business. Like you have a walk-on's hat there. I mean, I don't think you could ask Brandon if he thought it would end up where it is now when they first started, but do the little things and do them right. And it takes care of itself. So there's not some big secret or, self-help 3-part series book that will help you do this. I don't think it's that complicated.
No, it's just treating people right.
Yeah.
Treating them well and actually delivering on what you promise.
That's a great point. And that's one of the things that we try to instill in everybody is just do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't, or something comes up, or we try to order a medicine and it's on back order, people are inherently reasonable if you just communicate with them.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Just communicate and maybe, hey, well, this is kind of a situation because I really needed to have this today. Let's figure it out.
And that's, going back to the CPA life, like we're in the tail end of tax season, right? And so all these people that we've said we're going to file on time, if there comes to the point of no return and we have to file an extension, so long as I let them know, look, we did the best we could. There's still information we need.
That's
we
right.
don't want to put an exorbitant amount of pressure on you. Let's play it safe. Let's extend. And if we get it filed next week, we get it filed next week.
Absolutely.
But at least you're communicating that. And when somebody leaves whatever it is, whether it's a restaurant, whatever type of business that they decide to no longer patronize, they're most likely not doing it because they weren't getting receptive feedback.
I would say that's right. And it's not really product specific or
it's whatever.
It's anything. It can be a restaurant. It can be a car dealership. It can be an airline. It doesn't matter. Just communicate with people, and they're inherently reasonable. And that's what it's kind of funny. When we were opening our second store and we got a new computer system, I still don't understand everything it can do. As I told you, I'm kind of a Luddite, but it has all these bells and whistles. It can do all these things. And one of the big selling points, or one of the features it offers, is it will text someone when their prescription is ready. And I said, great. But I've heard horror stories like, what does that mean? Because the last thing I want is for, little Johnny has a raging ear infection. They went to the doctor, got home late. It's been a long day. Nobody slept last night. Just get everybody settled in, had dinner, text somebody, oh, little Johnny's antibiotic is ready. And you show up and wait in line and get up there. Oh, no, it's not ready. We had to order it for tomorrow. Like, I would rather not send them a message than send them that message.
I've experienced that firsthand where you get a notification, okay, your prescription is ready for pickup. And at the time we were out of state or something. And so we go to the pharmacy and I'm like, hey, I'm here to pick up the prescription. It said it was going to be ready at 12:05 or whatever. And it's 12:15. And they're like, oh, yeah, we don't, I don't know why it sent you that. We don't really have that. It's on its way from another pharmacy, 4 blocks down the road. And they've got to get it here, and then we've got to tag it in. We've got to process it. We've got to put it through, and
you're hours away from this thing being ready.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, how long? And they're like, well, it's going to be a little while. So, okay, I'll be back in 2 hours.
I'll come back next Wednesday.
I'll see you in a week or something. And it's just, yes, if you're going to communicate, and it goes back to delivering on what you say you're going to deliver on.
Yeah.
If you get a text message and it says your prescription's ready, it better be ready.
That's the one thing I kind of harp on. Like, if you tell somebody you're going to do something, do it. Just do it. If you do that, everybody's happy.
So you mentioned earlier about wanting to go back to wanting to go to law school.
Right.
What's the story there?
I don't know. I think it was one of those things. I took all the tests in high school. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I started off in engineering, and I enjoy things like that, but that certainly wasn't for me. Then I was in pre-med because, you do well in math and science. You should be a doctor. And then kind of once you dive into it, I had a little self-assessment, and it was like, do you really want to do this? I mean, is your heart in it? Because certainly pre-med, but once you get in med school and then residency and all those things, if you specialize, I mean, this is a big commitment. You kind of have to know that's what you want to do. And I couldn't, my heart wasn't in it. I enjoyed the thought of medicine and helping people. And I kind of fell into pharmacy. I don't really know how or why. My friend was kind of in the same boat I was, and had a friend that was in pharmacy school in Monroe. And he's like, I don't know, I'm going to apply to that. And if I get in, I'll go. I was like, yeah, I'll do that too. I don't really know why. And, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed pharmacy school. It was difficult, but I met Amy, my wife, there. She was in my class. But then you get out, and I was still kind of in the back of my mind, like, but what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like the law. I like even to see how the sausage is made, like with legislation. My wife and probably my mom would say I like to argue. So I guess I had my thought on something like healthcare law or and Lord knows now I probably should have done that because there's a huge vacuum, but yeah, I even took the LSAT. I did pretty well on it. And again, it was kind of one of those self-reflection things like, all right, we're finally out of school. We're finally making a little bit of money and have some established base set up. Do you really want to dive back into school? And I didn't. And I'm kind of glad I didn't. It turns out I love pharmacy. I really do love the whole process. I love being able to help people. The things I don't like about pharmacy really have nothing to do with the practice of pharmacy or patient care.
Right.
It's all
the backside of it.
It's corporate. Yeah, it's just corporate nonsense. I don't really know how else to describe it. Dealing with insurance companies has kind of become the bane of my existence, but I think we're in the process of fixing that. So I still love what I do. And sorry to kind of go on all these tangents, but then I did go back to school. So I went back, I had worked a few years in pharmacy, and I just realized like, this is not at all what I want to do. So I went back and got my MBA at LSU at night. And I kind of realized like, I want to do something. And, doctors are the same way. You hear doctors are like the worst business people.
Yeah. I've had discussions with Dr. Boudreaux at length about that.
And I will say that he and Kurt, Dr. Chastain, are probably outliers in that on the other end of the spectrum where they're kind of innovative and have flipped the thing on its head.
They've had to figure themselves out, but it's something that within their education process was not taught to them.
It's not, and
it's not taught. Like my sister and my brother-in-law are dentists.
Yeah.
And it's not like they have one guest lecture come in and tell you about the business side of dentistry, right? And then they have one guest lecture for med school probably comes in and tells you about the business side of medical. But it's like you're not taught about the business side because the assumption is you're going to go work at a big organization and they're going to have all the business ends of the practice handled. And all you're going to have to do is treat patients.
Yeah, well, and I think that's what a lot of them would prefer their physicians do. But you can't, to me, you can't really operate a business. Like if I was the pharmacist in charge somewhere, I mean, how can you expect me to operate this business as well as I think it can be operated when I don't even have the information? Like when I was at CVS, and to defend some of their pharmacists now, they couldn't see the prices. They couldn't change the price. They have no input on what things cost or what they have to charge or anything like that. But that's kind of where I was. Is I read a lot of books and listen to Dave Ramsey or whatever the things are that you do. But I didn't even have like a baseline of knowledge. I had taken, I think, an accounting class, and marketing, it's not really my thing. The soft sciences aren't my thing. I certainly understand the value of it, and I appreciate when somebody's good, but it's not my deal. But I went back to get my MBA really just maybe to figure things out. I don't know. And I'm glad I did. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. I went to school Monday and Tuesday nights. We had our first child in the middle of this process, and it was one of my MBA classmates that kind of talked me into opening a pharmacy downtown, which on paper, objectively, was a terrible idea, but we just made it work. And he saw a void there, a vacuum, that a population that just wasn't being served and there were no options. And he kind of just mentioned it one day in passing that, hey, why don't you open a pharmacy downtown? I think you could make it. I was like, no, that's the whole point of doing this. Like, I'm getting out of pharmacy.
So you never had an intention?
Oh, no.
Open your own pharmacy?
No, I thought it would be something like, I look back at it and laugh now, like nursing home management or hospital administration, or, even they had like this fast track to be a district manager when I was at CVS. Glad I didn't do that. But no, I went to get my MBA to get out of pharmacy altogether. I hated everything about it. I didn't. Looking back now, I didn't. Yeah, I just thought I did.
You hated the box in which you had to play.
And I hated wearing a tie.
What do they call it? The businessman's noose?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really know why. It was just an odd. And I worked with a guy. It was funny. Like, he would keep a little, 12-inch clip-on kid's tie by his computer. And so when the corporate folks came around ringing their bells, he would like put his little clip on. It would hang down halfway down his shirt.
He'd button his pharmacy jacket, and you could still see the tie and everything.
Yeah, but he checked the boxes. He had his tie on. So,
I get, like, I love dressing up, and I love like putting on a suit, and I'm a big bow tie guy.
Yeah,
and it's I can get. I love the appeal of a tie. I love the appeal of a bow tie. I love that level of dressing up. But when it's like expected or required, there's just a different component about putting that outfit on. And it becomes like it's like I have to now wear this uniform to go to work. It's no longer an expression of my fashion. It's no longer an expression of what I want to look like. It's now a requirement. And when you start requiring it, it's like, are we in grade school having to wear our uniforms every day?
Yeah. No, that's where I was. Like, I wear a tie.
Yeah, I love a good tie.
Fairly often.
McLavy puts me in a lot of ties. I'm about it.
No, the bow tie game is not my specialty. Shout out to my friend Bo Staples. He's had to tie a bow tie or two of mine. I've watched YouTube videos. We were going to the Mardi Gras to Achilles this year, and of course, last minute, Amy's trying to race out the door, and I'm just remembering I haven't tied my bow tie yet. So, but a regular tie I can do it with my eyes closed, but I want to wear it on my terms.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you're there, it's long days. We don't work as long now as I did before, but we were when Amy and I first started, we were working 14-hour days with no lunch break. You do 3 or 4 of those in a row, and you're pretty physically and mentally exhausted. And the last thing I need is this, restraint bark collar on my neck. So,
well, and it also it starts getting uncomfortable after that long a time, right? And then if you start loosening up the tie, now you're not looking.
Then you look slouchy, right?
Right. Now you're not looking nearly as professional as you were intentionally supposed to with a tie, and so now it's like you've lost your purpose.
Yeah, and I get it. You have to have dress codes, and you have to have, you see a Marine dressed in their blues. It looks really good. Mm-hmm. But it sounds so incredibly petty, but that was, I think that was like the last thing. But it's not the tie. It's like what it represents. It's just the corporate check boxes that mean absolutely nothing and add nothing to patient care. It's just because somebody somewhere came up with this algorithm or checklist that says you're going to do these things.
and I get, I can understand the appeal of wanting to dress in a certain way when your interactions with people are limited, right? Whenever you have somebody drive up to the window, you don't want them to see somebody not looking their best. You don't want them to see somebody looking like they either just rolled out of bed or not well put together, and you're like, I don't need what I came to get here. Go take care of your day, you know? Like when you pull up to the window and you see somebody professionally dressed and they've got that sense of elegant about them. And I can understand from a corporate level, we have to establish this across the board to make sure everybody looks a certain part.
Yeah.
But when you're able to get it down to what Prescriptions To Go, you have 2 locations, right?
Correct.
So whenever you're able to know who's working what shift and you're at that small business scale and controlling it, if one of the employees can't come in that morning because they are having a rough morning, you're able to say, stay home, we'll get somebody else to cover it, so you don't have to roll in, literally, and look like you rolled in.
Well, that's right. And, the flip side of that is, but there is some level of, we do have uniforms.
You're in slacks and a button down. You're not dressed poorly.
Right. Do you want someone that's giving you a medicine that could potentially kill your child if taken incorrectly? Do you want them to look like that? Well, no.
I think,
so it's a balance.
And it is an establishment of not necessarily authority, but like it's an establishment of knowledge. If you're dressed in a certain way, whether it's a suit or something, for whatever reason, we just objectively assume to trust you.
That's right.
Or, well, depending on what kind of work you're in, maybe not trust you because you're walking in a bad situation.
Well,
but in the sense of a pharmacy, I can see, pull up, okay, nice presented person. They're going to be able to handle. I'm going to trust whatever they're going to give me. If they say I need to take 2 of these pills every 4 hours, I'm going to take 2 of these pills every 4 hours.
Yeah,
But if I show up and you're in gym shorts and a T-shirt, and be like,
well,
TJ, are you sure you did the math right?
Yeah. And rightfully so. It's kind of like one of those self-fulfilling prophecies. But that was kind of the hardest thing for us to grow as a business in a pharmacy, was when we were downtown. Like I said, I was there all day, every day. I knew the numbers. I didn't have to look them up. I knew them inherently because I was there. Well, when we were opening another store, and we've had the opportunity to open several, and I think we will, but to me, it kind of has to be done a certain way, because what I didn't want, one of the hardest things for me was not like to relinquish power because I'm some like power hungry. It's not, it's just trusting someone else to do it the right way. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. As an entrepreneur, you have crafted, you have created, you have molded this child of yours, because your business is your child. It really
is.
And now you have to bring somebody else into the equation and say, here's how to raise my child. Go off and do what is right.
Right.
And in your mind, there's a certain way, there's a certain formula, there's a certain equation that gets the right thing done, how you want it to be done. And when you bring in somebody else to run another location, another store, they have their ideas, which aren't wrong. They just may not be in line with what you had in mind. However, as an entrepreneur, you have to look into what they've got and see if you can understand where they're coming from to determine if what they have is going to fit within your model, even if it's a slight variant of what you started with.
That's a great point. And I would say their solution or way of doing things may be better. And be open to that, because again, this whole theory that that's the way we've always done things, that applies to me too. I have a lot of shortcomings and room for improvement. But going back to, again, these things aren't complicated. Just hiring good people. And the good thing about pharmacy is that it's a really, really small world, really statewide. But especially in Baton Rouge, I floated. Floating means I wasn't like a staff pharmacist at any store. I just kind of filled in when somebody was sick or somebody was on vacation. So I went everywhere. And the good side was I got to meet a lot of pharmacists and pharmacy technicians and things like that. So when it was time to open another store or hire another pharmacist, you know, we kind of had the pick of the litter, and there are still some very good ones out there that I hope come to work with us one day. But it's hiring good people. It's giving them the resources and really the autonomy. Like, I'm not a micromanager. I'm not ever going to be a micromanager. I don't want to be. If I can help you, tell me. I'm there in the trenches with you, but I'm not going to nitpick over things unless I need to. But it's hiring good people, leaving them alone, and letting them. Most of them are in the same boat I was, and the only reason they would leave a corporate job that may have better benefits, that may have a better 401k, is because of that, because of the autonomy, because of, you know, we run the type of operation, like if your kid has a field trip or, you know, they're in a play or in their science class for second period, they want to show you something. Like, I want you to be able to go. And Amy's a pharmacist, I'm a pharmacist, which helps. We can kind of plug holes, but that's kind of the type of operation we're trying to run. And it really becomes more difficult when you grow, especially if you grow exponentially, which financially probably is a better move. That's what a lot of people do, is they grow and they get 5, 10, 15, 20 stores and they sell it for multiples to some venture capitalist. But this is my baby. This is, right. And that there's some value there to me that you can't really monetize. And if I open another store, I want the customers or patient, we call them patients, that use that store to say the same things that people say to me now. Like, they're so good. Even when you're not there, these people care. They always take good care of us. Like, that to me is very valuable.
So when you went from one store to two stores, how did you know it was the right time?
Man, that's a good question. I don't think I really thought about that. I'm kind of an impulsive guy.
So walk us through going from 1 to 2.
Yeah. Well, some of it was our pharmacist in charge at our second store. She and I worked together, and I know her. I knew her. I knew the type of operation she ran, and I would talk to her somewhat regularly, and she was just, you know, kind of in that spinning your wheels, and it's a job, and it's we're doing this because of this, and again, like corporate checklists and things like that. And so I kind of jokingly said one day, like, you should open your own pharmacy. Like, I'm established enough now to know that, okay, this is probably going to work. You know, there were points of time there where I didn't know. I mean, our first year or two was pretty rough and pretty slow, and I didn't tell Amy. I took it to bed every night and slept on it. But
you just left her in the wind. Just told her nothing.
That was kind of a joint decision, and that she's not a worrier like I am, and I don't want her to be. And, you know,
so she knew you were going to worry. She didn't have to.
I think that's right. I think she trusted me, and there's only, you know, both of us doesn't need to stay up all night worrying about these things. So
look, 100%. Look,
so that's kind of how, and that was always our agreement as a family, was that if we could, and Amy came from a very entrepreneurial family. Her dad, that's another funny story, and I'll tell you after this, but she grew up in a home unlike mine. My parents both worked. And that's what worked for them. And my dad told me when I opened the pharmacy, it was the scariest call I've ever made, was telling him I'm going to do this. I thought he was going to say I was an idiot, and he was proud of me. And he said he always hoped I would do something like that, and it just wasn't something he could do. He needed a paycheck, a 401k, a retirement date, and that sort of thing. But our agreement with Amy was that if we can ever get this to a position where it can kind of support itself and support us, and ideally you can be a part-time pharmacist and a mom. Like, that's her specialty in life, is being a mom. And that was kind of our goal, was for her, Well, for both of us, but for her to be a mom and to be the room mom and to go to the cafeteria. So I think she trusts me for some odd reason. But that was kind of it. But back to our pharmacist in charge, I would tell her, like, you should go start your own pharmacy. I'll help you. There are people that will help you. You will do well. You'll have to take, some bumps along the way, but in 5 years, you'll look up and be glad you did. And I remember telling me, like, nope, I can't do it. It's not in me. I don't operate like that. And she said, I don't know if she was joking or not, but she said, if you open one, I'll run it for you. And so that was kind of
that was it. She
planted the seed, and it just kind of kept going back to it. And that was the thing I always worried about was what do I open a pharmacy and then have like a career fair and, bring people in and interview them. I don't know that I've ever interviewed anybody. I don't have this formal job interview process. I probably should.
But for your third location, you probably should.
Yeah. I know most of these people. I know how they operate. I know how they are behind the scenes. And so that's been, I couldn't go to Colorado and open a pharmacy in Denver and have that. But we do here, and it's one of the more valuable resources.
Product offering in Colorado.
Yeah, that's I'm affiliated with a different product offering here, so I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for medicine for whoever may need it.
I love that. I mean, they say going from one location to two is the hardest.
Oh, I think that's right.
Because you have to figure out a way to replicate what you're doing at location A and bring it to location B in order for them to become successful. And then once you have that second location, you've kind of figured out the sauce, right? You figured out what makes it work because your second location becomes successful before you start a third. Not many people will have a failing second location and then start a third. You're going to figure out all your bumps and then go to your third, your fourth, and your fifth.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think 1 to 2 is very difficult, and it's, again, going back to everything simple for me is you just can't be in two places at once. And one of the things I really enjoy is truly establishing a relationship with our patients. I mean, these people truly become like friends and family to us. So that's something that I'm not there every day. I can't be there every day. So that you have to sacrifice some of that. But 1 to 2 was very difficult. I think the other problem people run into, and I'm trying to be cognizant of it, and go from 2 to 5 to 10 to 15. Well, I could do that. I mean, there are resources out there, and we could do something like that. But then, does it just become another commodity product? You're just another big box pharmacy who hires people who you don't even know. They don't care. And going back to this is my baby. When your entire business model is built on kind of quality service and word of mouth, you can't really screw that up.
Right.
Let me rephrase it. You can screw that up very easily, and you can't and survive.
Right. So do you think that's kind of like the biggest hurdle for prescriptions to go from 2 to 5 to 10 to 15?
That and my wife. I'm kind of disorganized. I blame my kids. I say I wasn't before I had kids, but I probably try to do too much. I don't outsource probably like I should, but yeah, it's very time consuming running two and, a family. At the end of the day, we have families too. And that's very important to not just me and Amy, but to everybody that works with us. When we go home and on the weekends, we're not, I don't compare us to Chick-fil-A, but I really envy that model. They get it right. I don't know exactly the model, but I know that one person can't open 10 stores. I think maybe they can own 2 or 3, but they're there. They're in the belly of the beast. They know they're not looking to report on the beach somewhere. They're closed on Sundays. You've never wanted Chick-fil-A so much in your life until it's a Sunday.
Your kids have never wanted Chick-fil-A more than in your life.
And that was one thing for us. I could be open longer. I could be open more on the weekends and on Sundays, and it would probably increase our sales and our bottom line. But that's not really how I want to operate.
Yeah, you've got to have a balance for both customer fulfillment, patient fulfillment, and employee satisfaction, and ultimately just their ability to thrive within the organization. Yeah. If you have employees and you work them to the bone day in and day out with no time off, they're not going to be there very long. Well,
and I wouldn't blame them.
I wouldn't be there very long.
Because I wouldn't either. And it's a great point. And that's one of the things I guess our patients or our customers have to sacrifice a little bit on their end is the convenience. We're not on every corner. We're not open until midnight and 10 hours on Sunday, but they're pretty adaptable, and either they find a way to get it when we're open, or there's certainly times when we meet people after hours, or I'll bring something home, or I mean, our staff or crew, I don't really know what you call them. Staff to me sounds sterile. Team members sounds a little
forced.
Yeah, it's a little much for me. I've always kind of struggled with that kind of odd little tidbit there, but probably most days they bring something home with them, whether it's for their neighbor or somebody that, I'm picking my kid up at daycare too. I'll bring your prescription because you couldn't make it across traffic, and I'll meet you there. So I don't ask them to do that. I don't expect them to do that. It's just kind of what we do.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to brainstorm what we can call your employees.
Yeah, figure it out, because I haven't.
Well, because I think that, not that specific component, but going and developing a training program where you have to bring in people that can recognize the beauty of what you've built within your 2 locations in order to open up that 5th, that 10th, that 15th. You have to show them the culture you've got at Prescriptions To Go. You've got to show them what you've built over the years and how everyone that's working there feels it. They want it. They drive for it. And that ultimately, I think, is what's going to get you to 5, 10, 15 stores, is getting those members of your company to step up and be like, we know what you want and we're going to deliver, and then ultimately convincing your wife. But that's
that's a much more complicated process. And the good side to that, again, pharmacy being a small world, is I'm from Bossier, the Shreveport-Bossier area, Lafayette. I mean, Monroe's probably kind of saturated, and there's some really good operators up there, but Lafayette, Lake Charles, we know really good pharmacists in all of those places that we could get everything running, turn the lights on, hand them the keys, and say, go run it like it's yours, and their culture would be the same as ours. It would be, so that's...
So it sounds like you've got 3, 4, and 5 planned out.
Well, in my head I do. And
we had to talk to Amy.
Yeah. We had looked at like a franchising process a few years ago, and we were pretty deep into the process. It's funny, one of my business school professors, who's a friend now, kind of came up with this idea and brought a friend of his in who's like a franchising guru. And then there's a lot. Brandon knows all these folks. There's a lot that goes into that. It's hyper complicated, and I don't write many things down. I mean, I do. I make lists for everything that I rarely finish, but I don't write things down like, this is how you do this. And part of the franchising model, or opening 5 to 10 stores, I mean, you kind of have to have policies and procedures. And how do we do this? Okay, if someone, heaven forbid, knock on wood, comes in and sticks a gun in your face, what do you do? You ask them, do they want a bag to put it in? Like, we're not getting killed over any of this, right? So it's things like that. You don't have to have a manual when you're there every day, but maybe I'm a little bit hesitant to do that too, because I'm a risk taker. I'm a gambler, but I'm also a little bit scared of failure.
Well, and it's like going back to the kid mindset. It's like writing down your kid's schedule for a sitter.
Yeah. And Yeah, we did that.
It's like when you do that, you're coming to terms that there's now a process for what you think is non-processable. Like
it's funny.
It's just you kind of no. It's just what you do. But when you write it all down, you're like, oh wait, no, this is just a math equation.
And it's
just
it's like programming a robot.
It's programming a robot, and you're like you look at it, and you're like, okay, yeah, no, you just formulated what you're supposed to do.
And it was funny when we did that early on, and like we would leave the kids with my parents or Amy's parents, and have this list, and here's their medicine, here's how they take it. I mean, looking back, it's so silly. They kind of know how to do this, right?
They raised you.
It's when we had our first baby, and we read all the books and did all the things, and going back to my disdain for the corporate structure, I'm the only male I know. Like, I took 12 weeks of FMLA for our first kid, and they were like, "Wait, you're doing what?" Like, the times have changed in the last 13 years, but at that time it was called maternity leave, and I was like, "Well, I want paternity leave." We don't have family here. I don't know what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
Now, a few weeks into it, I was already kind of back to work, but we brought our baby home, and you're feeding her every 3 hours and like throughout the night, and Dad, your job is to keep her awake and all these things. And I just remember being so exhausted, and we didn't know like which day it was, what day or night. And I remember like having to like stimulate the baby to keep her awake so she would eat in the middle of the night. And I told Amy, I'm like, there's no way my grandparents did this. I mean, this is insane. And so, needless to say, by number 3, it's like, hey, dude, you're on your own. You gotta figure it out.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be right back in the boat with number 2 on the way. It's gonna be
to me 1 to 2 was
reliving
more
those times.
Yeah, well, for children, 0 to 1 was the most difficult. Yeah. 2 to 3 to me wasn't. I mean, looking back, it probably was. I mean, I kind of poke a lot of fun at Amy because she's a good sport, and I'll be somewhere and I'll introduce her as my first wife, and people kind of are like a little weirded out by that, and I'm like, well, she's still my wife, but she's my first wife also.
I mean, it's an accurate statement. It's just an interesting way to phrase it.
She like just rolls her eyes at me, and how many times she's been asked like what's wrong with her and how does she do this, but she's a mom, and it's her thing, and she makes, if not for that, like she does all that. And look, I like to think I'm a good dad too, and I'm present in there, but she does that so well that I have time to do this sort of thing and go to all these pharmacy meetings and go testify at the Capitol. She has no interest or desire to do that. She sees the value in it, and that, how did I get involved in that? It's like, well, I mean, if it is to be, it's up to me kind of thing. I kept looking behind me, and nobody was
nobody's knocking on your back like, hey, I got this.
Yeah.
So, well, man, we gotta start wrapping this up.
Yeah. Told you, man, I'll go on a tangent.
I love it. So as we begin to wind down the show, we do have a set list of questions we like to ask every guest. So
it's funny. Amy asked me if I was prepared for the.
Oh, so you know about this segment.
I do not know.
You don't know, but Amy knows.
She may, but I don't. And I'm a spontaneous guy, so
perfect.
I don't want to know.
Perfect. So for the first question, they're very hard-hitting, very, very hard-hitting. What is something you did as a kid you wish you could still do today?
Man, maybe I should have processed this. I go back to, and I'm guilty of the phones and the iPads and all the things, and my watch is buzzing. I don't even know how to work any of this stuff, but I kind of miss a simpler time when I went to LSU and I didn't have a cell phone.
Pager and fax machine.
Yeah. I didn't even have a pager. Like, I wasn't even a cool kid. Yeah. I was probably like going to the public library and faxing somebody something, but I kind of miss that. The simpler, and again, I am fully guilty of all of these things, of always having a phone and looking at it and looking at text message or social media or whatever. mean, you know how terrible I am at responding to messages, but that's something I could, but just the innocence of being a child and like getting on your bike and riding it and not having a care in the world. Like I wasn't concerned about lunch or the stock market or anything. We were like trying to find trash wood piles at construction sites to build like a ramp or something. That it's still amazing that nobody broke their neck. But if I had all day, I could probably think of something else, but that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, it's a way of simpler times. Is I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are drawn back to that when we get back into the fast-paced way of life where everything's going 90 miles a minute, and then you have kids and it gets quicker for some reason. It gets quicker. And thinking back on the times when you were a lot younger and had that flexibility to just go and be free and not really have the adult responsibilities that we all have now, and it's a very desirable time that I completely can understand and relate to. So you have been in the business for 10 years now. Congratulations, by the way. You made a decade. So
thank you.
What are 3 lessons you've learned along the way?
Oh, man. Well, I think we kind of went over one probably ad nauseum, but just kind of, you can't do everything yourself. Surround yourself, whether that's being an electrician or being a mechanic or hiring a pharmacist. Kind of not necessarily delegating, but just you can't do everything and you don't need to do everything. So kind of focusing on like do what you do well, and other than that, outsource to good people. Number 2, I guess I'm even more probably disenfranchised by kind of some of the, I don't know what you would call it, corporate governance or corporate behavior, or even like legislation, like how the sausage is made type thing. And it's kind of funny. That's one of those truly bipartisan issues that it's everybody, it's both parties. It's all the, some of that kind of, I wish I didn't know what I know now. So I've learned to navigate that a little bit, probably not very well. I certainly say and post on Facebook more than I should, but I am who I am. So
it is who you are.
That, and then what have I learned? I don't know. I like to think I was always I was a pretty fiscally conservative and responsible, even as a kid. And I mean, my parents raised me like that. I mean, they were very frugal, and in running a business, things can get really out of hand really quickly if you don't kind of watch it and manage it. So that's something that, especially when we open our second store, I'm like, I don't understand. We're busier than we've ever been. And where's the cash flow? Like, this is not unique to pharmacy, I've come to find out. And that part of that is surround yourself with people like Brandon, or, Todd Graves, or other friends of mine who are, business owners or entrepreneurs, that a lot of these things aren't unique to any specific industry. And that's one of the things, really use the resources you have around you. That was something I always hated to ask for help. And it's funny, politicians use this a lot, that it's almost like when you ask someone for help, or when you ask someone for a political contribution, they have buy-in. They become part of the team. And man, like Kurt Chastain, I can't even tell you how much that guy has helped my business. He's a fantastic guy, fantastic doctor, and he's done a lot of this stuff before. So, in a long-winded way of wrapping that up, like, don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to.
100%. So what is something you love about Baton Rouge?
All the cliche things, the people, the food, but that's why we live here. You don't live here for the weather or the traffic or, lately the crime. I think hopefully we're turning that around, but it really is. It's just good people. We were, I guess, fortunate or unlucky or unfortunate to be the only pharmacy downtown with the flood in 2016. I wasn't here for Katrina. We were for Gustav, but that was a little different. But the flood, like, I'd never experienced something like that. Just to see people that truly don't have anything. I mean, their houses were gone. Some of them knew what insulin they were taking and maybe how many units. I mean, there were doctors leaving long shifts at the lake to come to the River Center to write. I mean, we had prescriptions on the back of receipts, on like the inside of a McDonald's bag. It didn't matter. Like, get us a prescription. We'll take care of it. We'll all figure this out together. That was really, really rewarding for us to see. Our kids got to witness it because unfortunately we were working, extremely long days. I mean, my best friend and his wife came in town from Lafayette to help us. Or actually, I think they lived here then, but they live around there now. But they came to help us just to help us tread water, to keep up. So it really is the people. And that's another thing about going back to like technology and social media and all those things. I think it takes out that part that kind of makes it special when everybody's either a number or a statistic or a voter or, that's not what makes it special. I worked at the corner of Plank and Choctaw a lot when I was at CVS. That's not the same demographic as me, obviously. Nobody cared. Everybody got along. They were so thankful that I gave a damn about their health care and them getting the right medicine. So it just goes to say that I don't think these things are as complicated as we make it. And some of it is just, we've forgotten just the human side of how to treat people.
Yeah.
So, not answer to your question, the people, the food, I'm a big LSU guy. Like, there's nothing better than, 2019 season was probably the peak of my existence as a Tiger fan, but it was a fun run.
We've got a lot to be celebratory about as of late as a Tiger.
Yeah, man.
We got a lot happening in the sports world.
The baseball Tigers, the Kim Mulkey, I don't know. Scott Woodward may be the smartest man in Baton Rouge. But again, put the right people in place and let them do their job.
Let them execute, man.
It's a fun time.
So for the final question, what can I do to help you?
Well, I think you've done it here. Thank you for letting me spew my random thoughts and wear the logo for my business. If people give us a chance, 9 times out of 10, they're not going anywhere else. So that it's a slow and steady process, but you've done it, man. You've used your voice. We have a lot of mutual friends, but we have a lot that aren't. And if there's anybody, your friends or whoever, there's something that somebody's making overly complicated. Now, the caveat, I can't help you with the Adderall shortage. That is a real thing. But yeah, I guess it's getting our business out there. And again, I'm terrible at marketing and advertising, but we just try to get ourselves in front of as many people and prescribers as possible. And when somebody does give us a chance, like, take care of them.
Yeah.
So
how
if I think of something, I'll let you know. It's not my taxes because I'm definitely not one of those guys that's ready by April the 15th. So
yeah, it's to each their own.
I delay that misery as long as I can.
Well, to avoid going down a very long conversation, man, thank you so much for coming on the show about taxes. What is a good way for people to find you?
Well, I mean, we have a website, ptgrx.com or Prescriptions To Go. Around here, it makes sense, GEAUX, but when I'm calling a help desk in the Northeast, they don't often get it. But the website, we have a Facebook and Instagram page. Again, I'm woefully bad at all of those things, but look us up, call us, walk in, talk to us. that's the easiest way. And, if there's any way we can help figure out the medication nightmare that's often out there, it's kind of like what we like doing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, TJ, for coming on, man. We'll be sure and link all the websites and socials for you, so you don't have to worry about that, man. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and appreciate you sharing your story.
Thanks a lot. We'll talk about golf next time.
Yeah, well, that's on the golf show.
Yeah, deal.
So thank you, everybody else, for listening, whether you're watching or you're listening to us, whatever platform you're consuming the show. I'm very appreciative. I know the guests are as well. Look, if you're looking to get a great place to get prescriptions, Prescription To Go is going to be the place to do that. We're going to link them in all of our social posts as well as the show notes, so check that out as you're consuming us. And thank you so very much for the folks that bring you this show each and every week. Hear a little bit more about them right now.
Welcome to the brand new Falaya mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy-to-use app for your phone. When you download the Falaya mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falaya in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falaya, it's real estate reimagined.
Thank you so very much to Building 5 for becoming the latest sponsor of the Patty G Show. We are going to be filming once a month at Building 5. We're going to post about it on our socials so you can come and visit with us. Building 5 is an excellent food establishment if you're into sharing boards and really getting a creative menu. Misty and Brumby have done an excellent job of creating an environment that's warm, welcoming, and inviting for every single occasion. Go on over to Building 5 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and tell them that the Patty G Show sent you.
Imagine taxiing on a plane looking toward the end of the runway. It seems so far away, it's even hard to see it. And that's what the concept of retirement probably felt like when you were in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, way far in the distance, not visible or even a concern. But as you turn 50, something happens. Retirement suddenly seems like something real, something not too far away. In your 50s, you are rolling down the runway. Retirement is getting closer and closer, faster and faster, weeks and months zipping by. But are you even ready for a successful takeoff to retirement? Fear not, there's still runway left. But the time is now. Time to make progress and time to get a plan. The Runway Decade will help you get organized, get energized, and give you the direction you need to take off to your desired retirement. The Runway Decade, building a pre-retirement flight plan in your 50s.
Thank you to Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge for making this show possible. Nick Pentis is a past guest. We love having him on. Listening to him talk about the culture they have over at Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge is really an incredible thing to hear. How they treat not only their employees, but every customer that walks through the door. You are more than just a number to them. They're going to give you that white glove concierge service every step of the way. They're going to make you feel like family and take what can be a stressful time in people's life, shopping for a car. They're going to make it so enjoyable and so pleasurable. You're going to want to go back there time and time again for every new vehicle. Thank you so very much for Mercedes-Benz of making this show possible. Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau, you won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out, Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center, and tell them Patty G sent you. McLavy's Limited, a proud sponsor of the Patty G Show, has been serving the Baton Rouge area proudly for 40-plus years. Gentlemen and ladies, if you're shopping for your man, there is no other place in the Baton Rouge area to get your clothing, whether it's game day needs, everyday needs, business attire, formal attire, whatever you want. Go over there, see Frank and Ashley. It's a father-daughter duo. They do incredible things in their store. They will outfit you from as simply a shirt that you need for one evening or all the way to a full wardrobe overhaul. They're going to take care of you every step of the way, and be sure and let them know that Patty G Show sent you.
Simple man, don't wanna complicate ya. Complicate ya.